NBA players miss games all the time these days, and it's become a lot more common than it used to be. The only reason players are supposed to sit out is because of injuries. But these 11 players took things too far and chose to miss their games for non-basketball related issues and got exposed. In the early 2010s, Greg Popovich basically invented load management to make sure his team stayed healthy throughout the season and were ready in time for the playoffs, even once going as far as sitting out his entire starting lineup. Well, in a 2012 game, Popovich submitted his lineup list and players with their injury description. Well, Tim Duncan was listed with his description as too old, which would make him the first ever and probably the last player to officially not play in a game because he was too old. And hey, this one's not even Tim's fault. It was all on Popovich for choosing to sit him out. After Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks won the 2011 NBA championship, it was reported that Dirk hadn't picked up a basketball the entire offseason. And that just gives you the feeling that he achieved the ultimate goal and decided to just sit back and relax because he felt like he made it. He probably felt like he was the best in the world at the time and would be fine when the season came back around. But that wasn't the case. He came into the 2011 and 12 season playing terrible, missing shots he would normally make, and completely out of shape, which showed that not only did he not touch a basketball over the offseason, but he didn't even exercise or work out at all. So he missed a few games at the beginning of the year, which were reported as right knee soreness. But it was actually so he could take some time to do some conditioning training and somewhat get back into game shape. This would be weird if it was any old role player, but for a superstar to have to miss games for this reason is pretty unheard of, because they usually aren't the ones with work ethic problems. We're still early in the video, but I think Charles Barkley may take the spot for the worst and weirdest reason for missing a game when he missed the very first game of the 1994 NBA season because he got lotion in both eyes. A few days earlier, he went to an Eric Clapton concert, and he said his allergies and the bright lights made him rub his eyes and get lotion in both of them. Apparently, he had some sort of chemical reaction to the lotion that he uses, and he had to wear 2 eye patches for 12 hours. So obviously, he wasn't gonna play the season opener with no eyes. I just want to know why Chuck was applying lotion in the middle of a concert, which makes me think I don't know if I'm believing that's really what happened. Either way though, I don't even feel bad this one was on him. But at least he had a reason he physically couldn't play that night, while on the other hand, guys like Dion Waiters, Rajon Rondo, and even LeBron James have all willingly sat out games claiming they had an injury, but really it was just their birthday. If a player's gonna say they have muscle soreness so they sit out a game, which just so happens to be their birthday, then they're perfectly fine the next night, then we obviously know what was up. They were just trying to give themselves the day off. I can't find the article about the time Dion Waiters did this, but I know for a fact it happened. Rajon Rondo did it during his Celtics days back in 2014 and insisted that his birthday wasn't the reason he missed the game, but wouldn't give any other details as to why he wasn't playing. And LeBron missed a game on his 30th birthday, also back in 2014. Apparently, he had knee soreness from jumping into the Miami crowd after one of his first games back there and wasn't able to play. And whether you believe that one to be true or not, either way, because you don't want to play on your birthday or you're injured while crowd surfing, both are odd reasons to not play in the NBA. But we slightly mentioned Dion Waiters a minute ago. Now, not only did he once miss a game for not wanting to play on his birthday, but he was known for causing a lot of off-court issues, and he had another time that led to him not only missing one game, but getting suspended for 10 of them. Apparently, he had a stomach ache on the team plane, so he took an edible and had a bad reaction to it, then had a panic attack during the flight. So the plane landed, and instead of going to the game that night, he stayed behind and had to be treated by team doctors and missed the game entirely. Then afterwards was suspended for the next 10, which I'm pretty sure makes him the only player this has ever happened to. Not a smart move. Allen Iverson had a very brief run with the Detroit Pistons, and it was so brief because he refused to play and missed an entire game when they told him he'd be coming off the bench, and was ultimately let go by the team because of it. So then the Memphis Grizzlies signed AI to bring him in off the bench, and the same exact thing happened. So not even some of the greatest players of all time have escaped from missing games for terrible reasons. Now, back when Monte Ellis was a star in the Golden State Warriors, he missed games because of an injured ankle. He told the team that the injury occurred during a pickup game, but they soon after found out that it was because of a moped accident, which breached his contract, and they could have avoided the whole thing if they chose to, in a way that was similar to what happened to Jay Williams. But instead, they suspended him for 30 games without pay, so it's no wonder why he tried to lie to the team. But I mean, like, a moped injury? There could have been so many cooler ways to go out. Like, if anything, I would have just lied to the team the opposite way and told them I got injured on at least a motorcycle instead, just to make myself sound better. Gilbert Arenas was another guy that lied to his team. As we know, he became the superstar that never was on the Washington Wizards, but his off-court actions and immaturity stopped him from really ever being considered one of the greats. But it wasn't a locker room issue or the injuries that officially made the Wizards trade him. I think the final straw came in a preseason game where he sat out because he said his knee hurt. So instead, Nick Young started the game in his place. And after it was over, he was in the locker room telling reporters, "I told Young I'd sacrifice playing tonight so he can get some time in because I know he's kind of frustrated." frustrated. I told him I'll go fake an injury or say something's wrong with me so you can start. Like, at least it was only a preseason game, but still, not only was Arenas dumb enough to miss a game due to a fake injury, but to flat out admit right after that he lied to his coach and the front office shows just how much of poor judgment the dude actually had. And it was no surprise that he was traded halfway through that year. Even Darko Milicic did something similar though, but his incident was 100 times worse, because at the time he was playing on the Minnesota Timberwolves as their starting center, and his friend Nikola Pekovic was upset with his playing time and his role on the team, so he was about to request a trade. But Darko didn't want that to happen, so he faked an injury so Pekovic could play more. And Nikola came in and dominated with all the extra minutes he was getting, so much so that the next season Darko lost his starting spot to him, slowly fell out of the rotation, and retired soon after. So he tried to do something nice for his friend and it completely backfired, and it cost him at least a couple years off his career. Back in 2014, Jermaine O'Neal was in year 17 of his NBA career, so you'd think he'd be one of the last people to miss a game against the Toronto Raptors because he forgot his passport. He was on the Warriors at the time and he wasn't allowed to board the plane without it, and by the time it would have taken for him to get it and make it back to the airport was too late, so the plane left without him. Honestly, I'm surprised we don't hear about something like this more often, because this is the only time I've ever heard of a player forgetting or losing their passport. And I just feel like with all the players in the league and all the trips to and from Canada, you'd think there'd be a couple more cases out there of a lost passport. Jermaine O'Neal wasn't the only player that played himself into missing a game, because back during the 2012 playoffs, the Knicks were playing the Miami Heat, and the Heat blew them out in game 2, putting them up 2-0 in the series, and making it the 12th straight playoff game that they had beaten the Knicks, which made Amari Stoudemire so angry that on the way back to the locker room, he punched the glass in front of a hanging fire extinguisher. You know, the one that says "do not break unless of emergency"? Well, yeah, he punched that. Got a giant cut on his non-shooting hand and had to miss game 3, which of course they lost. So not only was he mad that they lost game 2, but his anger also cost him game 3, before they'd of course go on to lose the series even after he returned. But I mean, there's so many other things he could have punched, so many less sharp and dangerous objects that had to have been on the way to the locker room. I get and appreciate a player having that many emotions about the game because it means they actually care, but they need a little bit of brains to go with that passion. And somebody should have given Enes Kanter the memo on that one and told him not to punch things, because in 2017 in a game against the Mavs, he walked to the bench, punched his chair as hard as he could, fractured his forearm, and was out for 6 to 8 weeks. So not only did he miss one game, he missed a lot of them in the 2 months that he was out. But there's so many things that make this injury so much worse. First of all, it's the fact that this wasn't even a playoff game. Like, calm down, whatever it was wasn't that big of a deal. The fact that it was only the second quarter of the game makes it worse, because it's not even like the game was on the line and he messed it up or anything. And then there was the fact that the Thunder ended up winning the game anyways, so there was actually nothing for him to get that upset about. And if he was just upset with his own personal performance, well, one bad game was definitely not worth 2 months of playing not good in any games, because he just wasn't playing at all. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm out.